So yeah, we're going to talk about NFTs and music. So I guess what we're going to do is we're going to go down the line and just what each one of your companies is doing for music with Web3. Josh, you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are doing NFT ticketing, where we're using the tickets as a direct relationship between the artist and the fan. Within the ticketing platform, though, we do have streaming music, we have memberships, we have communities, and a whole bunch of other features, but the main thrust of it is actually engaging with the fan through a ticket.
Awesome. Tatiana?
Hi, we have a platform called Super Fanatics, and it's basically a Web3 platform for musicians and their entire ecosystems and their fan bases. There's a lot of inefficiencies in Web2. You guys have heard plenty about how musicians are struggling to make a living and becoming full-time content creators and entrepreneurs. So we help use Web3 tech and move musicians' ecosystems to Web3, enabling them to make money, become financially free, and go back to creating by connecting with their communities. Oh, you got a mic. Oh, fuck yeah, it's my mic.
Paula?
Hi, everyone. My name is Paula Reina. I'm the founder and CEO of Audio Chain. In a nutshell, we are a music sync licensing and sample clearance platform. We're going to be doing that through the First Music Rights NFT, which it will encompass everything related to publishing, split sheets, copyright verification, and everything you need to license and clear that license on the blockchain as well.
Awesome. Van Decker?
What's up, everybody? Druid Production, basically, it's a production company, and with all the growing trends and all the new companies and projects that are coming out in Web3, just like in Web2, you have to obviously advertise. So I am a meta videographer. I do a lot of videos in the meta. There's a lot of metaverses that are coming up right now, and there's no way for them to advertise in the meta. So that's basically what I'm trying to bring to Web3. So video production, but, you know, metaverse style.
Alex?
Hey everybody, so One Of is a music NFT platform founded with Quincy Jones Productions. So we've been working with a lot of musicians, get them into the NFT space. We started with Doja Cat about a year and a half ago, and we've done NFT collections for the Grammys and Alesso, Whitney Houston estate, Notorious B.I.G. estate, really trying to make NFTs accessible to music fans, making the onboarding experience really easy. Yeah.
Awesome. And I'm the mayor. I'm the host and creator of NFT and Chill, which is a podcast that was nominated Best NFT Media at NFT NYC. And
All right.
Thank you for that. So yeah, I guess why would a musician or artist want to start using NFTs or get into Web3? Like, what are the benefits of that, Alex?
So I actually got into the space as an artist. I'm from the traditional music industry. I was at Universal Music Group for a while, but I'm a visual artist on the side. I've been doing like custom sneakers and murals around New York City for a while. So I actually got into the space as an artist, early Clubhouse days, back when it was just a lot of visual artists kind of selling our work. And it completely changed my career as an artist, as a visual artist, and brought me opportunities that I definitely wouldn't have had otherwise. So that is sort of when it clicked for me that, you know, obviously it's changing the careers for visual artists. It can for musicians as well. It's different, certainly, than the visual artist world, but I still think that the tools that Web3, Metaverse, all of these kinds of opportunities provide can make a huge difference for an artist. So seeing it firsthand as an artist really made a difference. And it's just, you know, sort of another tool belt that a musician can use as well.
Yeah, exactly. Tatiana, want to jump in on there?
Sure. So as a musician and as an artist, that's been my main career my whole life. And I just happen to have been deep in Web3. And obviously with the pandemic, a lot of fucking time on my hands to build. But with that said, musicians today, most of your favorite musicians are broke and fucking miserable, even if they have tens of millions of plays on Spotify. And that's predominantly because for 1 million plays on Spotify, you get $3,000 of income. And so you spend a lot of time trying to get billions of people to hear your music so that you can get millions of plays so that you can make thousands of dollars. So musicians have become full-time content creators, trying to do TikTok dances and making songs strictly for TikTok, or becoming entrepreneurs and managing 7 different social sites, or doing Facebook ads, and they're tired, and it's not actually natural a lot of the time. It's not comfortable in a musician's wheelhouse to be creative all day and then switch into entrepreneur mode and run your businesses. So musicians are really frustrated, and this system has been like this for a while, and the music industry is fairly broken at this point in time. So why would a musician be like, oh, it's a good idea to get into Web3? Well, it's because currently musicians are busy doing shit that's like not native to them. TikTok dances and being an entrepreneur is not what they're in it to do. So how do we enable musicians to get their time back, to get a sense of safety, to get some income so that they can create again? And essentially, what Web3 right now looks very complicated to musicians. It's like, learn how to NFT and learn how to do this and then bring your entire audience in. And it's always up to the musician to bring their fucking audience to a platform, which is really annoying. So at this point, what we have tech that can help musicians keep doing what they're doing. They have wonderful communities that love them, that want to partake in what they're doing. Musicians have the highest engagement of any celebrity statistically online. So their communities are there and love them and want to engage. And the musicians are like, and we have all these assets and value we want to give you, but it's very inefficient and difficult to manage in Web 2. From everything I just said, because everything is a fragmented app, from fan club over here on Patreon, streaming on Spotify and Apple over here, Facebook, got to fight with the Instagram algorithm. It's very difficult. So Web3 allows us to really streamline the process for musicians, give them their time back, and by being able to connect through NFTs and giving value to their communities directly, they can sell NFTs and experiences, get some income, calm down, and focus on really giving value to their 1,000 true fans instead of trying to please everyone on earth and get everyone to give them a cent. They can get people who are really into them great experiences for a bit more money and get some financial freedom. That was a really long-ass answer, but you know what I'm saying.
That was excellent. Yeah, I mean, Web3 is where you can, monetize your, let's say, fan base, customer base, or community, and also get direct feedback, and they can actually become a part of that. So, how can a fan base become more a part of what a musician is doing in the space? Josh?
So, I'm going to come at it from a ticketing angle where, we all go to concerts, we go see our favorite artist, and from the artist side, the fans come in and they're the most engaged at that show, and then the show's over and they're gone. There's no engagement, there's no retention, they're out the door, yet it's an opportunity to build a community. If you look at the earliest days that we've just kind of gone through around Web3, where we saw the profile picture communities being built, you have whatever the number is, the 10,000 people that are all part of a community. They're on Twitter with each other, they're engaging with each other, partying with each other, and that's what the artist communities really need to be. And that's why NFTs lend itself so well to ticketing. Once you actually have that NFT in the fan's hand, the ability to continue engaging with them, selling them tickets, selling them music, giving them exclusive content, gating them into chat rooms and other places. And this technology just lends itself so well to tickets, to music, to all of the other things that artists really make income off of. Also for the fan, it lets them actually be part of that community where you have ownership. You actually feel like you're part of something with other fans. And that's really important because a fan just wants to be recognized. So the technology just lends itself so well to so many facets of the music business.
Yeah, absolutely. And instead of taking that physical ticket and putting it in a shoebox and forgetting about it in your closet, it can actually become, in your wallet where you can look back at the metadata. And let's say it was a small venue, like an intimate setting where only 100 or 500 tickets were sold, then it actually becomes a collectible.
It does. We've had tickets also that the artist post-show, like we did one with a jam band called the Disco Biscuits, where after the show, the next day, they literally pushed out to the NFT holders the entire show in high def, but only to those people that attended. Yeah. We've had artists that have pushed out behind-the-scenes content, pre-sales to their next tour, things like that, because that the NFT holder was at a show. You actually have proof that they were there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I add to that
Please.
briefly? Because I love what you just said, and I think that what's so interesting is there's so much conversation about NFT this and NFT that, and so many people are trying to understand what is an NFT, what is an NFT. Whereas really, we've been consulting for different companies and businesses for the last 3 years on moving into Web3, and something we say often is stop trying to sell people NFTs. What are you creating? So it makes me think of like we moved from vinyl to tape, right? And when the tape player came out, it was like, oh my God, you can now be mobile. You can listen to your music on the go. It's amazing. And there's an onboarding. You have to buy a tape player and you have to then get into it. And so everyone started making tapes and running around going, I made a tape, I made a tape. And then all businesses are making tapes and being like, buy my tape, buy my tape. And you're like, is the music on the tape any fucking good? So the point is, it's not about selling the tape. The NFT is a tape. And what's hard to understand, when a piece of technology comes out that goes across every industry, that works in so many different ways, people are like, but what is an NFT? Is it an image, or is it a healthcare record, or is it a contract, or is it, what is it? Ultimately, it's the ability to authenticate anything digital. So then all the use cases come out. And in music, in any kind of business, you're saying, ultimately what you're describing is value. You're saying there is a way to get your close community on board, let's say your 1,000 true fans, they all hold NFTs, and you can just drop them value whenever you want, stay in touch with them without the barrier of algorithms, without the barrier of fighting websites to reach your fans. And this is a huge use case in music across the board. So it really is about what value are you offering. It's not about what is an NFT, I guess. And I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, for the average fan, like the everyday person who listens to music, there's not many people out there who don't. What are the benefits for their favorite artists or musicians, getting into Web3, maybe releasing an NFT, in terms of possibly revenue sharing and stuff like that? Paula, would you be able to speak on that?
Yeah, so for us, it's a little bit different because we're dealing with more of the publishing side. Many of you here are assuming from the music industry, and as you know, that it takes about 3 months to collect your royalties. And just to clear a license, it takes sometimes even longer than that if you're lucky. So with us, what we're doing with the NFT space is we're making sure that the artist and the music creator themselves make sure that we are kind of taking care of the platform itself when it comes to the software. We're giving them that value when it comes to the power. So we're making sure that they are cutting out the middleman. So for example, the PROs, right? They collect your royalties. We are making them their own bosses, pretty much. We're making sure that they're clearing their own license with the protocols that we're using, which is autonomously. And we're making sure that we're also cutting out the timing. Because right now, who wants to get paid 3 months after that? And sometimes you don't even see that information, that royalty, the audits, because it's not available to the artist. Because guess what? Usually the publishing company is the person or the entity that controls that IP. So that's what we're doing with our platform to make sure that our creators are having control of their own creativity, their own IP, as opposed to giving it to the third party and maybe never see their royalties.
Yeah, and just like with a lot of other industries like art, the creator would be getting the lion's share of what's coming in. So that would enable them to be able to revenue share with their fan base.
Right, and we are not doing a revenue share just yet, just because the space is too shaky with the SEC. I'm sorry to say that, but it's very easy to do. It's very easy to do, but the way we're doing it, music rights on our end is to clear music licensing, and that makes it faster. And we're cutting out, like I said, not only the middleman, but also timing, and you're getting your royalties faster. Again, we're not touching that part yet, incrementals or anything like that, because it's just too shaky right now for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with music, like a lot of other industries, it definitely seems like, a no-brainer to get into Web3. I guess, what would be some of the reasons that musicians, especially ones that aren't, don't have labels and are independent, that haven't got into Web3 yet, besides the technology?
I think it's education. I think you mentioned a little bit about it. a lot of people don't understand what blockchain is. I've been in the blockchain space for 11 years, and I remember it was like a different language to me. So can you imagine an 18, 20-year-old artist signing a record deal, not having an attorney? That's when you mention that they're all broke because they don't understand the lingo. And this is the legacy system lingo. Now, can you imagine going into a new technology, AI, NFTs, blockchains, and the likes? How are they going to know that? So one of the things we're doing with Audio Chain is starting next March in the spring, we're going to do free workshops for anyone in the music business. And every quarter, we're going to have attorneys there as well. So we're doing one in New York, here in Miami, San Francisco, and LA to onboard not only for the blockchain and NFTs, but also to educate them on the traditional system because, again, I hate to say it, we still have to follow some of those rules as well when it comes to copyright and trademarking and the likes as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although I'd love to also add to that.
Please.
If I may, thank you. Which is, I think that there are two things that tend to happen, which is number one, looking at artists and saying, but you get all these plays, like you should be making more money. And if you're not making money, again, just to your point, maybe you did a bad deal. But then you have artists who literally own everything. I'm very lucky to still own everything that I have. And, I fought for that. I was very, very lucky to be able to keep my masters. So on one hand, there's people going, well, it must be shoddy deals. And then on the other hand, it's like, well, if musicians don't want to be entrepreneurs, they should just hire teams, right? But there's actually an in-between there. When you're making $3,000, $3,600 on average on 1 million plays, a manager would stand to make 15%. So if your manager's making 15% of your $3,600, and for an up-and-coming artist, it takes you 3 months to hit 1 million plays on that one song. That's a manager working for you full-time, hoping to make, whatever it is, $400 to $800. And that's if you wrote the song and you own the song. So I would say, I love that you guys are doing education. I think that's wonderful. I also think there's plenty of talent on this panel. We should all superpower together, Captain Planet, and make something. But I also think that there is... it's not just the education. So many videos on how to make NFTs exist. I think that as an artist personally, I sold the first ever guitar solo NFT on the blockchain for a laugh 2 years ago. But I'm also like, emotionally as a musician, it's a very different approach, I think. And that's something, for example, that our platform has worked on a lot. Is not just saying, here's the tech, use it, and then also we'll throw some ideas at you and figure it out. I think it's so nuanced as to why musicians are not getting involved. And that's something we've been very, very focused on. And again, I happen to be very lucky to be at that intersection. But I just wanted to add that emotional component too.
No, and I definitely agree with that sentiment. You mentioned, the traditional aggregators, like Spotify and the likes. I'm pretty sure we all know the story on how that came to be, the fight that they had when, they first came out, and the record labels didn't want to deal with them unless they had a revenue share, unless they own a percentage of Spotify. And if they didn't, they were not allowed to come to the United States. So can you imagine exactly what you just said? You got to pay the business manager, the roadie, if you have one, the regular everyday artist manager, then you have the record label, the attorneys, and your accountant, you're left with nothing.
Or you got to do it all yourself because you don't have the income to pay them yet. So both are true.
You as a musician know that takes away from your creativity. But it has to be done if you want to do it right. So that is important, to understand. I used to be an artist manager myself when I was in Interscope and Def Jam Records, and it's very important for whoever is coming in the music industry to make sure you learn the knowledge, even if just the basic fundamentals. There's so many stories. TLC is one of them. Tony. We had just Kara. What's the lady that just passed away? She did a Fame, the theme. Yes. She passed away with 0. She had the #1 record in the world, and she saw 0. So, and why? Because she didn't know the back end of the music industry, because it's a business. It's the music business, and sometimes we forget that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Van Degger, from a production side, could you, I guess, talk about like NFTs as like music video NFTs and how that would work?
Well, also there's also a different aspect. There's a whole new creative side to musicians happening now. There's this collab happening with video guys and 3D artists, and they're coming together and they're making NFTs together.
Yeah.
And it's actually just changing how people view their own music NFTs, how they do their creative processes. So it's like a whole production, obviously, that's going into just being creative now. So the Web3 is literally creating all of these new ways to create. And it's good that there's so many things that are starting to come into play to like police these things, because it's the wild, wild west right now. It really is.
Absolutely.
Even with music NFTs, like everything is stealable even when it's not. So you have to be careful. But as a production, there's so many aspects to produce now than it was before. And with the help of Web3, it's one of the things that is really good, the community. So that's one of the things we did not have back in the day. Like you were just, it was you, your friend, and whoever helped you sign your contract. God forbid if you have an agent that was good enough that you trusted, you know, that didn't steal everything from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like from a fan perspective, how wouldn't you get some sort of actual ownership, like if you were to purchase an NFT from your favorite artist, or like let's say it was a music video, if they released a song, could you explain or could you talk about the ownership aspect from a fan's perspective?
I mean, owning an NFT, especially, you know, with the royalties and in the music industry, how now you have a resale value, like everybody gets a piece. And as they're spreading your stuff as a fan, they get to, the more they spread it, the more of a piece everybody gets. So it's almost like they're a part of your success. So being a fan now and having your artist or your favorite artist get an NFT, it's so much more of an involvement together to get, you know, the whole train moving. And I think that the benefit of, as a fan, like it's so much more to get into, so much more exciting to be a part of. And then having that ownership, you can, the bragging rights alone, just for everyone, you can now get that clout that you wanted. Not just, hey, I own the album, I have it, it's pristine, I've never opened it, still has plastic on it.
Yeah.
Now you have like the ownership of the NFT. You can put it up on the wall, you can put it on a video, you can spread it around. So they have great insight as to what they want to get into to be a part of the whole music community now. So
Yeah, absolutely. Alex, could you, I guess, talk about, you know, what you would like to see in the future of music in Web3?
Yeah, that's a big one. I also just want to touch on something you
For
said
sure.
I thought was great. Just the collaborative nature of the space. That's been a really exciting thing, like since I got into it, specifically audio and visual collaboration. There's been some really amazing projects where, I don't know, I mean, I love how we're all advocating for musicians, and we still should, but I'm always kind of advocating for the visual artists too. I've worked on a lot of music videos and creative directors and things like that, and they're often doing work, whether it's like background visuals for DJs or album covers or things like that, and you like don't even know who the artist is who made it. So it's been kind of cool to see that recognition happen and see that visual artists, a lot of my job is kind of like finding the right visual artist for the right musician. Like that kind of partnership creates so much value in the final NFT, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's a really exciting thing. And I guess like in terms of how that will develop in the future, I think that kind of merging of audio, visual, interactivity, metaverse, like all of these different kind of different pathways that are being explored right now are going to come together to some degree. And, you know, it's definitely interesting creatively. It can be very interesting in terms of revenue. It is, you know, sort of another slice of the pie that you then need to kind of add to the equation. But when we are talking about true ownership, when, you know, maybe the piece of content is just being minted directly on the blockchain by the creator, like really the revenue will only be going to the artists involved, you know? I don't know. I think it's an interesting time right now to answer your bigger question. I mean, there was a lot of we had a lot of fun when like every musician and every company wanted to be doing NFTs, and we like couldn't even like answer all of the emails of people who were like, we want to drop on this platform, we want to, it was a buzzword. That's calmed down now, and that is definitely an opportunity in some senses, in that like now a lot of the early startups, a lot of the early platforms are trying to like find a solution to keep going, especially like during this crypto winter. So it's like these big companies are getting into it, these brands are getting into it and trying to explore the space. Some startups are starting to merge with them and kind of like do back-end solutions for these larger companies. We'll see like how that develops in the music industry. All along at the same time though, like we have these companies over here where, like it's really empowering artists fully and assuredly, and like that I think is what we all want to see ultimately, right? I think that's why we're interested in this space. It's decentralized, it's artists really owning their content. But at the same time, I think we've also recognized that it's not going to happen immediately, right? There's going to be this Web 2.5, 2.75, whatever buzzword you want to use, where like, the big brands, big companies are going to kind of be in charge of onboarding their audience in some ways. So I don't know. It's a hard question to answer, and I think like anybody who says they know is lying.
I know.
Yeah, or she knows.
I'm a lying bitch.
No, I mean,
I'm joking. I don't. I mean, but can I say something to that?
Yeah, please.
I will say that just on a very basic level, without trying to predict any future, I will say that Web 2 right now serves as a fantastic exposure layer. You can reach a lot of people and the reach is there. I think that when we start depending on Web 2 for monetization and for income and for an artist's livelihood, what we found is it's very inefficient, it's very fragmented, and it's very difficult for artists to make a living. I think that's something we've kind of to some degree reached consensus on looking at Web 2. When we look at Web 3, by being able to authenticate assets, it opens us up to being able to automate musicians' businesses, simplify it, streamline it, do simple payouts. It being able to identify your true fans. Currently, if you have a diehard fan listening to you on Spotify or a casual listener listening to you on Spotify, they both generate the same income on Spotify or Apple Music. Not just to target Spotify, but they both generate the same income. How do you know which one of these two might want to come to a VIP concert, might want to meet you in person, might want to have a limited edition print, might want to be someone that wants to build and grow with you? It's hard to decipher. The way we know now is by fighting algorithms to get those people to join your mailing list so that you can then fight every other email in their inbox to try and get their attention to say, hey, you actually want to hear my new song, but I can't even tell you that it's out, because I'm fighting every algorithm. So at this point, when you have an NFT, for example, you're basically saying to the musician, hey, this is a musician that I want to be kept abreast of. I want to be in touch. I want to see when you drop tickets, if you're going to give me a free ticket to a show in a year, amazing, drop it in my crypto wallet. But the point is I've now opted into that. So it allows people as well, per your point, as to bet on their beliefs. Right now, if you want to invest in someone, you can go invest in anything on the stock market if you like, but people don't get to invest in their favorite artists. And I don't mean financially invest. I mean emotionally invest, experientially invest, and say, I believe in this. And I think we can focus on clout a lot. But to me, it's less about clout, and it's more about the fact that their musicians have a lot to offer, but it's hard to offer it in Web 2. So moving forward, I would say Spotify doesn't go anywhere, Apple doesn't go anywhere. Sure, we get Web3 equivalents that may have blockchain to pay out, but we still have YouTube, we still have labels, we still have teams and people to help the artist, manage their business. But what we also have is we basically are able to monetize things a lot more efficiently. We're able to truly hang out with the 1,000 true fans. And at that point, we're able to make much more efficient businesses that bring in a lot more income for the musician and the whole team and the label, and gives a lot more value to the fan, eliminating all of the internet fight and noise and algorithms and bullshit that goes in between, whilst providing a secure solution as the tech progresses to have secure ticket sales, tickets, scalpers, all of that has been a huge issue. So we're solving a lot of problems just as a base level. Now where we go, metaverses, consciousness, flying, all the above, who knows, but to stab at that basic first step.
Yeah,
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
No,
Real
go ahead,
quick, and because this is to everybody, like, we see the companies still existing, the record labels, the DSPs, and what have you, and they're going to provide their services. We recognize that musicians should be using Web3 technology for their brands, for their artistry. Do you think that labels, DSPs, are going to try to provide Web3 services?
They already are.
Do they have a place there?
In 2016, Spotify bought Media Chain. They've already been implementing it. I've met the founders at a conference in Silicon Valley area. That's where I'm from, and they were about to sell when I met them. So unbeknownst to all of us, it's already been happening. Similar to Amazon, it's already been happening.
Yeah, I interviewed the founder of Co-Write, which is like a label, but also a Web3 like services platform as well.
I guess the follow-up is like, a lot of us have launched NFT projects, and we recognize it takes tremendous upkeep and effort and stuff that a musician, like that we've all been saying, probably doesn't have the time or effort or focus to. Like, NFT projects need even more upkeep and like attention than like an album sometimes, right? Because it really needs to keep going, and
Well, the community is 24/7.
theoretically forever too, right? Since it's on the blockchain. So like, is that a service that a label or whomever can offer, like that kind of community upkeep? Or
Well, I think that ultimately, you know, we focus so much on community in Web3, and I think it's because it's small right now, but Web3 itself, I mean. But what I would say is it's always been about community, right? Like anything, Apple is Apple because they put the Apple the right side up and had white headphones and had like 1,000 songs in your pocket, and people felt like they were like, I'm part of this new trend. Nike shoes. Everything truly is about community, and I think it's easy to forget that. The difference is that in Web3, community still controls stuff because bigger institutions or bigger companies haven't come in to monopolize yet. So there is this window, which is beautiful because we get to play a part in shaping the future, right? And we get to do these startups and be innovative and come up with ideas. So I think simply put, I would say we can very easily take a lot of the problems we experience in Web 2 and just move them right over to Web 3. And I think that a lot of big companies like labels, for example, are still thinking like labels. And so when they move into Web 3, they essentially use the tech to uphold what they're already doing, which would be to some degree managing community, etc. But what I think is interesting is there is a new wave of innovation, understanding, and connection that comes through this community experience that we're all having, and people who are starting with the tech and saying, how can I fix problems using the tech? As opposed to just basically saying, how can I optimize what I'm already doing with the tech? And I think that's where we see disruption. And I think that labels, like any big company, are generally quite slow to adopt new tech and will, in my opinion, ultimately be bringing in smaller companies to help them manage communities. They'll be like, I think people overvalue big IP and undervalue value. We've had a lot of companies with big IP come to us and say, we want to do this NFT drop and we want to do 10 pictures. And we're just like, your IP is cool, but not so cool that we're all going to suck your dick for 10 pictures. Like, calm yourself. You know what I mean? And it's like, we're going to sell them for $1 million. Like, fucking are you? At Sotheby's? What are we talking about here? Like, know your audience. So it really is about the value, no matter how big your IP is. And so I think that big institutions can be a bit more out of touch with their community. So yes, I think that everyone's going to look to manage community because simply by having an NFT, you're creating a community of dedicated fans. Or you're simply identifying your dedicated fans and using blockchain tech to interact with them. So by its very nature, to agree with your point, like, it is super important to have people managing the community. And I think that will absolutely come.
Yeah, for sure. So that's just about it. I mean, we have a couple questions. Okay. This is unprecedented here.
Are you pregnant?
Well, I planned this out well. I don't know if you guys were here for the BitBoy panel earlier, but we went a little long, about 45 minutes long. That man over there, Cassius Quove, he's a hip-hop star. He was supposed to do perform his new single on the way out, but we didn't get the time. I figured because this is the last panel today, and it's about music, he can actually go ahead and get that performance in. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm gonna let Ty finish whatever he had planned, but I think we should
Sure, thanks.
absolutely have Cassius see us out when we're rapping.
Yeah.
I was just gonna touch real quick on your last
Make
one.
it super quick.
Yeah. Basically,
getting waved off here.
the experience, like the experience now growing into Web3, the experience of creativity is getting so huge, and that whole think outside the box. Nobody ever knew what the inside of the box was to compare it to. So now that we know Web2, going to work in a box, putting your food in a box, basically you die in a box. In the end, thinking outside of the box is pretty much everything that we weren't doing before. So all this new evolution of coming into the Web3 and stuff, I think it's going to be great. The creativity is just going to expand, and it's an exciting time.
Absolutely. Well, that is the panel.
Thank you, Mayor.
So,
Thank
can you
you,
guys give
man.
everybody a round of applause real quick?
Give yourselves a pat on the back.
All right.